The worst thing I ever heard in my life was not a scream. It was quiet. A specific kind of quiet that a hospital hallway makes at 4 o'clock in the morning when the machines behind a closed door stop making noise and the people standing outside had stopped pretending. My name is Larry Dell, 58 years old, retired firefighter. Charlotte, North Carolina. Dorita neighborhood, Northwest Side. The kind of block where people still wave from their driveways and mean it. I spent 26 years running into burning buildings. I have seen things that don't leave you. I have held steady in moments that would hollow most people out. Nothing prepared me for that hallway. My daughter's name is Kara, 30 years old, sharp as anyone I've ever known, which is saying something, because I've known some sharp people. She married Brandon Cole 3 years ago. I'll get to Brandon. I'll get there in my own time, and I'll be precise about it, because some things deserve precision. Kara had been admitted to Riverside General Hospital on Blythe Boulevard in Charlotte just after midnight on a Thursday in late October. 38 weeks. High-risk pregnancy. Her OB, Dr. Sandra Pruitt, had been monitoring a placental condition since week 22 and had told them clearly what to watch for. Kara had done everything right. Every appointment, every instruction, every restriction. She did what she was told because she understood the stakes, and she is not a woman who gambles with things that matter. Brandon drove her in. I got the call at 12:41 a.m. My wife, Donna, was already pulling on her coat before I hung up. We made it to Riverside General by 1:15. Donna had said something to me about 6 weeks prior. Quietly. The way she raises things she doesn't want to be right about. A name. Gina. That Kara had mentioned in passing. Something about a colleague Brandon spent a lot of time with. Donna had let it sit. I had filed it. Brandon was in the hallway when we arrived. Not in the room with Kara. In the hallway. On his phone. Standing with his back to the wall near the vending machines at the far end of the corridor. He had the phone pressed to his ear with one hand, and his free hand flat against the wall behind him, the way people stand when they're bracing for something. I clocked that. Filed it. He saw us coming and lowered the phone. "How is she?" Donna asked immediately. "They've got her stabilized for now." He ran a hand through his hair. "They're monitoring her closely." He said it smoothly. The right words in the right order. Brandon Cole was very good at the right words in the right order. That was one of the first things I noticed about him when Kara brought him home. The way his sentences were always perfectly constructed. Not wrong. Exactly. Just engineered. I had never fully trusted a man whose words came out that clean. We were allowed in to see Kara at 1:40. She was awake. Barely, but awake. She looked at me when I walked through the door, and something in her eyes relaxed the way it used to when she was 7, and fell off her bike, and I showed up at the end of the driveway. That look, the one that says you're here. I held her hand, and didn't let go until the nurse asked us to step out. "Doctor." Sandra Pruitt was a precise woman in her mid-40s with reading glasses pushed up on her head, and the particular calm of someone who has been in enough difficult rooms to stop performing composure and just have it. She gave us the update in the hallway at 2 a.m. Placental abruption had progressed, blood pressure dropping. They were working to manage it. The situation was serious. She was honest without being brutal, which I appreciated because I have zero patience for euphemisms when someone I love is in danger. Brandon stood beside me during that update, arms crossed, eyes down, nodding at the right moments. After Dr. Pruitt went inside, I watched him take his phone out, check the screen, put it away, take it out again. I did not say anything. Not yet. The woman arrived at 2:20. She walked off the elevator in a burgundy jacket, mid-20s. moving with the particular confidence of someone who knows exactly where she's going in a building she's never been in before. She stopped when she saw Brandon. He saw her at the same moment. Something passed between them in that half-second that did not need words. "What is she doing here?" Donna said, very quietly beside me. I didn't answer. I was watching. Brandon walked over to her. They spoke in low voices near the elevator bank. She touched his arm once and he let her. After a moment, he brought her back toward us. "This is Gina," he said. We work together. She heard about Kara and wanted to check in. Nobody drives to a hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning for a coworker's wife. That's very thoughtful, Donna said, in the tone she uses when she means the opposite. Gina said something sympathetic that I didn't fully absorb because I was too busy watching Brandon's hand drift to the small of her back for just a moment before he caught himself and pulled it away. I breathed through my nose. In. Out. Filed it. I want to tell you about Nurse Patrice Webb because she is the reason I know what I know. Patrice had been a labor and delivery nurse at Riverside General for 14 years. She was thorough, professional, and had the observational accuracy of someone who has spent a decade and a half reading rooms under pressure. She worked the night shift that Thursday. She was charting at the nurses' station 12 feet from where Brandon and Gina were standing at 3:30 a.m. She told me all of this later. At the time, I was in the small family waiting area down the hall with Donna, who had her hands wrapped around a coffee she wasn't drinking. At 3:47, Kara's heart stopped. I didn't know it in the moment. You don't. From a waiting room. What I knew was that suddenly the hallway outside the waiting room got very busy very fast. Feet moving with purpose, a cart rolling, voices giving instructions in the flat, rapid tone of people who have shifted into a different gear. Donna grabbed my hand. We were not told anything for 22 minutes. Those 22 minutes are the ones I don't talk about. Not because I can't, because they belong to me and Donna and the God we were speaking to in that waiting room. And that conversation is private. What I can tell you is this. At 4:09, Doctor. Pruitt came through the door. Her face was arranged in that practiced neutral expression that doctors build over years of delivering news in both directions. I have seen that face. I used to put on a version of it myself when I had to knock on a door at 2 o'clock in the morning. I knew what it meant. It meant she was holding everything back until the words did it. "She's alive," Dr. Pruitt said. "We brought her back. She's critical but stable. She's alive." Donna made a sound I had never heard her make before and haven't heard since. I sat very still for a moment. Then I stood up. "Can we see her?" "Not yet. She needs to remain sedated, but she's alive. She's fighting." I nodded, thanked her. She went back through the door. I stood in the hallway and pressed my back against the wall and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. I didn't know it yet, but the night was not over, and what was coming next would change everything I thought I understood about the man my daughter had married. If you've been listening for a while and want accounts like this to keep coming, it really helps if you hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. So, thank you. Here is what Patrice Webb saw from the nurses' station while I was in the waiting room, not knowing whether my daughter was alive. She saw Brandon Cole standing near the elevator, with Gina at 3:52 when Dr. Pruitt stepped out to give the hallway update. She saw his face when Dr. Pruitt said they had lost Kara's heartbeat and were working to bring her back. She described it to me later with the careful language of a professional who chooses words deliberately. "It wasn't grief," Patrice said. "It moved wrong for grief, like a man who'd been waiting for a result and was processing what the result meant." Patrice had worked 14 years of night shifts. She knew the difference between a husband falling apart and a husband recalibrating. She went back to her charting. At 4:01, she heard Brandon's voice from 15 feet away. Low. Not low enough, if she doesn't make it, he said. The mortgage reverts to sole title. I had it redrawn in September. Gina said nothing. She adjusted the strap of her bag and looked at the door to Kara's room with an expression Patrice described precisely as impatient. Patrice set her pen down, looked at the door, thought about the woman on the other side of it, and the doctor fighting for her, and the man in the hallway running property calculations. She picked her pen back up. She watched, and she remembered. I was back in the hallway at 4:31 when Dr. Pruitt came out to tell us Kara was alive. Brandon was 6 feet to my left. I watched his face receive that information, watched him produce the correct expression. Relief. Gratitude. With the timing just slightly off, like a man performing a scene he'd already rehearsed for a different ending. Thank God, he said. Correct words. Correct volume. One beat too slow. Dr. Pruitt said there was something else she needed to discuss with the immediate family. She looked at me. She looked at Brandon. She gestured toward the consultation room at the end of the corridor, the small one with the round table and the box of tissues and nothing on the walls. The room that exists in every hospital for the sole purpose of delivering news that needs to be received sitting down. Brandon looked at Gina. Gina looked at Brandon. She took a step back toward the elevator. We went in without her. Dr. Pruitt sat down across from us. She folded her hands on the table. She looked at Brandon first, then at me. Kara was not carrying one baby, she said. The room went very still. She has been carrying twins since the beginning. The second baby was positioned behind the first in a way that read as a shadow on the earlier scans. I've been monitoring both since week 22. A pause. Both were delivered by emergency cesarean during the resuscitation. The delivery is what made resuscitation possible. She let that sit for a moment. Twin A, a girl, 4 pounds 2 ounces, NICU, breathing with assistance, expected to do very well. She looked at us both. Twin B, a girl, 3 pounds 14 ounces, NICU, breathing independently, also expected to do very well. Silence. Your daughter is alive. Her daughters are alive. All 3 of them. All 3 of them. I put my hand over my mouth. Donna. She had come in from the waiting room when Dr. Pruitt called us, reached over and grabbed my arm with both hands and held it the way you hold something you almost lost. I looked at Brandon. His face was doing something I had seen only once before in my life. On a man at a card table who had bet everything on a hand and watched the other player lay down something he hadn't accounted for. Not devastation, not joy. The look of a man whose calculations had just been rendered wrong by a fact he didn't know existed. He said, "Twins." "Yes," Dr. Pruitt said. "She never." He stopped. Started again. "We didn't know." Kara knew from week 22. Dr. Pruitt said carefully. "I discussed it with her at every appointment. She may have had her reasons for keeping it between us." The silence that followed that sentence was the loudest thing I had heard all night. Brandon stood up. His jaw was set in the way jaws set when a man is working very hard to keep his face from showing what his mind is doing. He said something about needing some air. He walked out. Dr. Pruitt watched him go. Then she looked at me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. I had been reading rooms for 26 years. I was reading this one just fine. I sat with Donna in that consultation room for a few minutes after Dr. Pruitt left. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say that words were the right container for. We had 2 granddaughters alive in the NICU. We had a daughter sedated in a hospital bed who had died and come back and was going to have to wake up to a truth she already half knew. We had a son-in-law standing somewhere in this building holding a phone, recalculating. I thought about the mortgage, redrawn in September. I didn't know yet everything Patrice had heard. That came later. But I already knew enough. I found Brandon near the elevator at 5:10. Gino was gone. He was alone, phone in hand, staring at the floor with the expression of a man having a conversation with himself that wasn't going well. I stood beside him and waited until he looked up. "You want to tell me something?" I asked. "I'm just processing," he said. "It's a lot." "It is," I said. "Twin girls, Kara alive. That's a lot to process." He nodded, said nothing. "What were you processing at 4 o'clock in the morning?" I said, "before we knew she was alive." His eyes came up to mine, a careful look, the kind that is measuring distance. "I don't know what you mean, Larry." "I think you do," I said. "I'm going to give you some time to decide what kind of man you want to be about it. Because right now, in this building, at 5 o'clock in the morning, my daughter is alive, and her daughters are alive. That's all that matters today." I paused, but today is not all there is. He looked at me for a long moment. I walked back down the hallway toward the room where my daughter was breathing. I didn't know yet how much Patrice had seen, but I was about to find out, and when I did, the timeline I'd already built in my head was going to get a lot clearer. Kara woke up on a Saturday afternoon, 39 hours after her heart stopped. I was in the chair beside the bed when she opened her eyes, not standing, sitting. Because I had learned in 26 years of going to houses after tragedies that the person sitting beside you when you wake up is the one telling you with their body that you are safe. I wanted to be that for her. She looked at the ceiling first, then at the window, then at me. "Dad." "Hey, baby." "They're okay," I said. "Both of them." A pause. Both, I said. 2 girls, 4 floors up, getting stronger by the hour. Dr. Pruitt's had eyes on them since day 1. Kara's face did something complicated and quiet, and I let it. Some things need room. After a while, she said, "Does Brandon know?" "He knows," I said. She was quiet again. "How did he take it?" I chose my words carefully. "He was surprised." She looked at me with the eyes of a woman who has known her father for 30 years and can read exactly what his careful words are covering. "I need to tell you some things," she said. "I figured," I said. "I've got time." She told me about the mortgage first. In September, 6 weeks before she went into labor, Brandon had asked her to sign a refinancing document. She'd been exhausted, 32 weeks pregnant, and he put it in front of her during dinner with a pen already uncapped. She signed it. She didn't read it fully. She trusted him. 2 weeks later, she found the copy in his desk drawer while looking for the car insurance paperwork. She read it that time. The document had removed her from the primary title and restructured it as a sole ownership mortgage in Brandon's name, with a reversion clause that dissolved her interest in the event of her death. She had not confronted him. She called a lawyer instead, a woman named Dana Fitch at a family law firm on South Tryon Street in Charlotte. Dana had been quietly working on Kara's behalf since mid-October. "I was going to wait until after the babies were born," Kara said. "I wanted to be steady before I started anything." "You were already 2 steps ahead of him," I said. "I learned from you," she said. "You always said, don't let them know what you know until you know everything." I had said that. I'd said it about house fires, about reading a structure before you entered it. I did not expect my daughter to apply it to her marriage. I was proud of her and heartbroken about it in equal measure. Patrice Webb came to see Kara on day 3. She introduced herself simply. She'd been on shift the night Kara came in. She'd been part of the team. She asked how Kara was feeling. They talked for a few minutes about the twins, about recovery, about the NICU schedule. Then Patrice said carefully that there was something she felt Kara had a right to know. She told her what she'd heard. The mortgage, sole title, September, if she doesn't make it. Kara listened without interrupting. Her face went through several things and settled into the particular stillness I recognized, the stillness she'd had since she was a child when she was deciding something, not reacting to it, deciding. "Thank you," Kara said when Patrice finished. "I need you to know that I'm not surprised, and I need you to know that I'm already handling it." Patrice nodded. She looked at Kara the way people look at someone they've just confirmed their read on. "I thought you might be." Dana Fitch arrived on day 4. They met for 2 hours in Kara's room with the door closed. I sat outside in the hallway, in the chair next to the door, reading a magazine I was not reading. Available if she needed me, and out of the way because she didn't. When Dana left, Kara called me in. She looked tired and clear-eyed in the way people look after making irreversible decisions. "It started," she said. "The mortgage issue is being addressed. The separation filing goes in next week." She paused. "Dana thinks the reversion clause may constitute financial fraud given the timing and circumstances. She's looking into it." "Good," I said. "I also want to avoid it. I want to look him in the face and be the one who controls that room." "You will be," I said. "You always are." Brandon came on day 5. He brought flowers, expensive ones, stems wrapped in brown paper. He stood in the doorway of Kara's room, looking at her in the bed, and at the 2 occupied bassinets beside the window that the NICU team had allowed in for the afternoon. He looked at his daughter's faces for the first time. Something moved across his expression that I think was genuine. The flowers were real. Some of what he felt in that doorway was real. I believe that. It didn't change anything. Kara looked at him. "Come in," she said. "Sit down." He sat. She told him what she knew, not everything at once. She gave it to him in the precise order that inflicted the most clarity. The mortgage document. Dana Fitch. What Patrice had heard in the hallway. The separation filing. He spoke. Some of it were apologies. They varied in quality. Some of it were explanations. She let him finish each one before pointing out, quietly, that she hadn't asked for any of them. At one point he said, "I panicked. That night I was scared, and I panicked." Kara looked at him for a long moment. "You had the mortgage redrawn 6 weeks before that night," she said. "That's not panic. That's planning." He had no answer for that. There wasn't one. He left an hour later. The flowers stayed. Kara moved them to the windowsill so they'd catch the afternoon light. I watched her watching her daughters in the soft hospital light. 2 small faces, impossibly determined, breathing on their own, taking inventory of a world they'd arrived in against significant odds. "Have you named them?" I asked. "I have," she said. "June and Willa. Mom's middle name and yours." When I didn't say anything for a moment, I looked at the 2 of them. June was sleeping. Willa was awake, studying the light from the window with the serious, focused attention of someone who had just arrived somewhere and was already paying close attention. "That's right," I said. "Those are exactly the right names." Kara came home 18 days after she was admitted. Dana Fitch had filed the separation. The mortgage fraud claim was under formal review by the Mecklenburg County Court. Brandon had vacated the house. Their house. Kara's house, the one that would remain hers, 4 days before she was discharged. Dr. Pruitt stopped by the room on Kara's last morning in the hospital. Not for long. She checked the chart, asked how the night had gone, stood at the window for a moment looking at June and Willa in the gray November light. "They're going to be something," she said. "I know," Kara said. "I think they already are." Here is what I carry out of that hospital. I carry the image of Brandon Cole standing in a hallway at 4 o'clock in the morning, running the math on a future that did not include my daughter. I carry that because I need to. Because the men who wear the right face and say the right words in the right order are the ones you have to watch most carefully. Not least, I spent 26 years in a job where a building that looks stable from the outside can be hollow at the center. And the only way to know is to pay attention to things other people dismiss as minor details. The mortgage redrawn in September, the woman in the burgundy jacket, the hand on the phone, the timing of the relief. None of those things are minor. But here is the other thing I carry. I carry Patrice Webb setting her pen down and watching the door and choosing to remember what she heard. I carry Dr. Sandra Pruitt sitting in the chair. Not standing. Sitting. Because a woman who has been fighting for 2 days straight and has just delivered news that will alter a life understands that the posture of presence matters. I carry Dana Fitch arriving on day 4 with 2 hours of undivided attention and the kind of professional anger at injustice that makes lawyers exceptionally effective. I carry Kara in that hospital bed, clear-eyed, decided, already 2 steps ahead, looking at me and saying, "I learned from you." I did not teach her that. Her mother and I gave her the ground she grew it from. She built it herself. June and Willa are 4 months old now. Willa has my mother's nose. June has Donna's laugh. Which is, given the circumstances, one of the most extraordinary things I have ever witnessed. They were both in there the whole time, fighting to arrive, refusing to be a shadow. I should have known. They were Kara's daughters. What else would they be if you liked this story? Join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more family-centered accounts like this. For a long time, I believed that the greatest tragedies in a family were the things that were taken away. I know now that some of the greatest miracles are the parts of ourselves that somehow survive, despite everything meant to erase them. Watching June laugh was like watching the sun break through after years of believing the sky had forgotten how. It wasn't just the sound of happiness. It was recognition. It was hearing Donna again, not as a memory fading with time, but as something still beautifully alive in the next generation. For a moment, the years between them seemed to disappear. The same laugh, the same sparkle in her eyes, the same way she tilted her head when something genuinely amused her. It reminded me that love has a remarkable way of refusing to vanish. It changes shape. It passes from one heart to another, but it rarely disappears completely. Looking back, I realize I underestimated both of them. I thought survival meant simply enduring what life placed in front of you. They taught me that survival can also mean protecting the parts of yourself that make you who you are, even when the world keeps insisting those parts should disappear. Donna never truly stopped fighting. Neither did June. Neither did her sister. Somewhere beneath years of grief, confusion, and silence, they held on to themselves with a determination that even they probably didn't recognize at the time. That's the extraordinary thing about resilience. It often grows quietly, unnoticed, until one ordinary day, it reveals itself in something as simple as a laugh across a dinner table, or a smile that suddenly reminds everyone of someone they thought they had lost forever. In the months that followed, I found myself paying closer attention to the little ways people continue living inside those who love them. A familiar expression, a favorite recipe cooked exactly the same way, a phrase repeated without realizing where it came from, the habit of humming while washing dishes, the instinct to comfort a frightened child with the very same words spoken decades earlier. Families are built from those invisible inheritances, far more than from photographs or possessions. They are carried in gestures, voices, kindness, courage, and hope passed quietly from one generation to the next. One afternoon, June caught me smiling while she laughed at something completely ridiculous. She asked what was so funny. I simply shook my head and said, "You remind me of someone very special." She smiled back without asking another question. Somehow, I think she already knew. Maybe we all carry pieces of the people who came before us without needing anyone to explain exactly where they came from. Maybe that's why love outlives loss. Maybe that's why memories refuse to stay buried. They find new voices, new smiles, and new hearts willing to carry them forward. If this story has taught me anything, it's that no amount of darkness can completely erase the light that shaped us. The people we love leave fingerprints on our souls that time cannot wash away. Sometimes those fingerprints appear in the next generation, reminding us that endings are rarely as final as they seem. Today, when I hear June laugh, I no longer hear only the echoes of the past. I hear the promise of the future. I hear proof that kindness survives, that courage is inherited, and that the best parts of the people we lose continue walking beside us through those who remain. In the end, I realized that Donna had never truly become a shadow. She had become a light passed from one daughter to another, from one generation to the next, quietly illuminating lives she would never get to see, but somehow still helping to shape. And perhaps that's the greatest legacy any of us could ever hope to leave behind. Not that people remember our names, but that they continue recognizing our love in the hearts of those who come after us, long after we're gone.